All right. Last week we started with Tom on the Bill Belichick stuff. This week we won't probably go as long into it because it seems like it maybe cooled down a little bit. We got some news last week with Jordan being banned from the thing and then others saying she wasn't. And now Bill's come out on ESPN and said she's not part of the program. I'll let Cole start out because he's kind of hot today anyway. So let's talk about Bill Belichick and UNC and then we'll move on.
Is he going to coach a game? Don't get me wrong. I believe he will. And I do believe that once you start winning football games, that becomes the first and only real major thing that is going to be a part of the conversation. And well, it should be because of North Carolina has a very relaxed schedule outside of the Clemson and TCU game. They have a quarterback that I think that all of us have seen up close and in person may end up being one of the better ones in the ACC by the season's end. There's a lot to like about what UNC's schedule allows them to build a rapport to when they play against the more compelling matchups. They might have an opportunity to go to Charlotte, but everyone wants to just focus in right now. What is the narrative around the program? What is the narrative around Bill Belichick and the situation with Jordan Hudson? And I'm not here to say that one thing outweighs the other, but if Bill wants to be somebody that is willing to allow a 24-year-old to have final say on so many different elements, then by all means, that's cool. It's not welcomed at Chapel Hill. It was never assigned or agreed to upon at Chapel Hill. What was agreed to upon was him having say on the program and the identity that was going to take the Tar Heels to the next level. And so that needs to be the focus. And if that means that Jordan Hudson has to be away from the program, not have final say on a lot of things, not be included on emails, allow this to be a coach derivative process, then by all means. But if Bill doesn't want to do that, come June 1st, the buyout is set in place to where he will be able to walk away. UNC won't be out of a lot of money. But the question then turns to what happens with the rest of the players that could enter the transfer portal. Because remember, you have that 30-day allocation window. How many of those players are actually connected to Bill because of UNC, the fact that Bill Belichick is there? Those are things that are going to become subject to conversations. But let's just try to get through the next couple of weeks. Hopefully this all kind of dies down, and Bill will be coaching on the sidelines come week 1. Or I guess it will be, where is that game? Is that going to be in Chapel Hill or is that one in, that was not in Dublin. That's next year in Dublin, right?
Yeah, correct.
So.
Yeah.
It's TCU to open.
It's TCU, but it's at Amon G, isn't it?
I think
it's at Amon G. Carter. Anyways, wherever the game is, whether it be at Chapel Hill or whether that be at Fort Worth, let's see Bill on the sidelines, win a football game.
It is in Chapel Hill, and it's the Monday night game.
That's right. It is the Monday night game.
It's Monday night game. So
get to Labor Day weekend. Get to the Monday.
You saw the ESPN report come out that says there's a real chance he doesn't coach. I mean, I love the drama. Don't get me wrong, especially in May when there's nothing to talk about other than Cole's horrible lists.
Yeah.
But I would be very sad if we don't get to see Belichick coach. Like, that would suck. Like, and I don't really care what happens with UNC. I don't care if they win 10 games or 2 games. I am completely irrelevant to me. I would like to see how it goes, right? Like, if you have all this, it'd be like if Deion would have never coached that first ironic that his first game was against TCU as well. But it'd been like if you had all that hype for Deion the whole offseason and then something happened, he got sick or went to another job or just whatever. This would feel like a disappointment if we didn't get to see him coach in this game. Here's the question, though. I'll throw it to Tom. Tom, feel free to share any thoughts on what Cole said, too. Does he coach the game in Dublin, though? Does he coach week 1 in 2026?
That's tough. My gut right now says no. There's a lot of stuff here. And again, like, we're going to follow this for another 2 weeks until that June 1st threshold goes out there. I completely agree with Pablo Torre because that date is out there for him to leave. But at the same time, like, I think the last time we looked at it, nearly 20 players had come into the program via the transfer portal and nearly 20 players had exited via the transfer portal. So obviously Mike Lombardi is working his butt off as a GM and they're recruiting. You continue to see Bill Belichick out there. So if he left by June 1st, you leave UNC in a really, really bad situation as a football program for this upcoming year. That would be an enormous story for one of the most respected and appreciated coaches in the history of the game to just be like, I'm out. I'm going to go hang out with my 24-year-old psycho girlfriend. Like there's so many layers to like promises you've made to families, whether they were promises or even just NIL agreements. Like I do feel bad for Gio Lopez and all this because I think he could be a brilliant quarterback for UNC this upcoming season under the tutelage of someone like Bill Belichick, who has shown that he will be hard on quarterbacks but get results. Like no one cares about what's going on with UNC football. Like I'm not going to be heartbroken if he doesn't coach. I kind of want to see the flames. I want to see this explode. And here's the other thing about this is that no one is talking about the football element with UNC. However, Bill Belichick, when he hopped on ESPN, I think it was yesterday, he was live. He was interviewed at the ACC meetings and he's talking all football. Like if you've ever taken media training, this is classic deflection because the last two questions from the host were about Jordan Hudson and his answer was Jordan is not a part of UNC football. And he immediately pivots and he gets back to I'm just excited about June and our players and our coaches and all that stuff. Classic 101 media training. You know what was the dumb thing that he said? We consider UNC the 33rd NFL franchise in that he's like, oh, we're operating under a pro model because that is his experience. And he experienced a lot of people on his staff. UNC as the 33rd NFL franchise, even if that's a branding and marketing tool that you're using in NIL and recruiting and everything, you are such a dumpster fire right now to even consider yourself in category is profoundly stupid and misguided. You know why it's misguided? Because he's not paying attention to the football program. He's paying attention to the second runner-up in the Miss Maine pageant. And I have vacationed in the state of Maine for the bulk of my existence on this earth. And let me tell you, to win Miss Maine, it doesn't take that much. I love the people there. I love it up there. But Jordan Hudson, holy crap, are you a disaster? And I love watching it.
Can we just say that it's also really dumb to be called the second runner-up? Like that has been bothering me for the last 24 hours. It's third place. You came in third place. That was it. That's what you did. You came in third place in the state of Maine. It wasn't Texas. It wasn't Georgia. It wasn't California. It's Maine. It's Maine, and you came in third place. Here's the other part that's really, really frustrating. I think you look at this from a North Carolina standpoint, or if you're a Bill Belichick standpoint. The family is getting involved because they understand how big of a media outlast this is. It's no longer just surrounding Bill Belichick, the football coach. You're in grocery store lines looking at US Weekly, looking at People magazine. Guess what's on the front cover? Bill Belichick and his livelihood. So this is going to continue to follow in a pathway well after if he is no longer coaching in Chapel Hill. So regardless, the media outstorm that has come from this simply because of the way that a 24-year-old handled herself and people did investigative journalism to find out more information about her livelihood and background and how they met, instead of just facing the music head on, has now created a Mongol of misery for a lot of people involved in this situation, including Bill Belichick himself, who I guarantee you, when he initially signed on the dotted line to go to Chapel Hill, it was all about him just being a football coach for another season. He wasn't ready to hang up whistle. He wasn't ready to stop calling the X's and O's. And now he's got to deal with all of this backlash because of a 24-year-old, dare I say this, and it's not to be disrespectful to Jordan Hudson. This is one of the very few times I'm actually trying to be nice. A 24-year-old's brain is completely different than a 35-year-old's brain or a 45-year-old's brain. A 24-year-old's allowed to act like that, but you shouldn't be allowed to act like that with a 73-year-old six-time Super Bowl champion who's trying to bring back relevance to North Carolina football.
Cole tried to be respectful there. Tom literally used the word psycho, and that might have to be the thumbnail for this. So,